Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. So the stock market is not doing too much this morning. We're seeing a lot of consolidation. We're not seeing any crazy upwards movement or downwards movement. Twitter stock is doing okay, which is interesting because it has been holding up extremely well over the past week. And ever since Monday when the board enacted their poison pill, or gave themselves permission to enact it. But either way though, stock market seems to be pretty flat this morning, Tom.
Yeah, it does. The SPY is really consolidating around this 436 support and also between the 438 resistance. So kind of in a bit of a range here, Mike. You know, we're between two kind of big levels. So I'm curious to see where the SPY is going to end up moving today. I hope it moves to the upside, Mike, but man, we're seeing crude oil futures start to fall back down, and a lot of stocks were falling down yesterday. So I hope that the market can recover today, but I'm not going to be too optimistic given what we've seen with some of these bigger tech stocks lately. But as long as Apple and Microsoft do well, I think the market can hold. And so far today in pre-market, they've done decent.
Yeah, that's true. Some of the bigger names being up will definitely help the SPY overall, and then a lot of other stocks. So we'll see what happens. Apple and Microsoft aren't looking too bad. Some stocks are popping up this morning. I saw some of the China stocks are doing okay. Nothing crazy though. It doesn't look like a terrible opening so far. So we'll see what happens. Another stock I wanted to check back in on was Snapchat. They reported earnings after the bell yesterday, and Tom, they've been all over the place.
Yeah, it looks like another theta burner here, Mike. They're kind of opening right around that closing price of yesterday. Like you said, it was parabolic and went all over the place in after hours. And I can't believe we were seeing prints all the way down around 22.66. Man, that was pretty low there, but I'm glad it ended up holding its ground and consolidating. Like we talked about, those monthly active users were actually pretty good out of Snapchat. Even though their revenue and EPS weren't the best, at least they kept up with their user numbers. So that's good. And there we go, Mike. That IV finally printed here on the chart. And wow, look at this. The IV was at 130%, and now we're at 80%. So this was a pretty big drop.
Big time. And then the options got destroyed so much because think about it. It's a Friday, Tom. If this would have happened on a Tuesday, it would have been a little bit different, but still. So these puts are down anywhere from 78% to 97%. The calls are down anywhere from 60% to 99%.
Wow, that's a big drop there in those calls, Mike. That's pretty drastic there. I feel bad for anyone who played this one with earnings. Man, let me know if you guys played it. If you guys did end up winning on it, definitely let me know. I'll be curious to know your expiration and everything. But man, it opened right around that closing price of yesterday, and it didn't really do too much in after hours after that initial move, Mike. It just went flat, and even so far this morning, it hasn't had much movement. So maybe we'll start to see it get more volatile here over the next couple of minutes. I will say I'm seeing stocks like Facebook, Mike, start to go back up in the green. And actually, they look like they have a bit of momentum this morning, which is fantastic considering their movement yesterday too.
I'll take it, Tom. There we go. Yeah, it's been pretty rough over the past couple days, especially for these tech/growth stocks. So we'll see what happens. Let's see what else we have moving. Yeah, Baba's not looking too bad. That's my free day trade, but nothing crazy though.
Yeah, it's holding up well, though, I will say, even though it's moving down a little bit here. It had that nice gap up this morning, which is good. So seems like it's holding its ground okay. I know a few of these other China EV companies like XPEV were doing okay this morning along with NIO. I know they had a bit of green momentum, so hopefully they can keep that up. Maybe the China sector will help boost these stocks back to the upside. Can't forget about LI. They're also another China play, and they're trying to pop too. So a lot of these China stocks might have a very similar setup today, but you're right. They gapped up and they don't look too bad right now, especially Baba with momentum.
Yep. All right. And then Hunter said Corsair got mauled. I was just looking at this. So I saw that they the company issued Q1 revenue guidance below analyst estimates. So that is the current news. Now to explain why Logitech is also down. So yeah, that sucks. So I guess we'll have more information once they actually report earnings.
Yeah, they're going to be reporting earnings, or at least Logitech is going to be reporting on May 2nd. Let me go see when Corsair is reporting. Let's go double check that one on the daily. Looks like Corsair is going to be reporting May 5th. So the next couple weeks are going to be pretty big for some of these chip plays. And look at Corsair on the daily, Mike. They broke below that huge support level, which seemed like it was holding up well, but we moved right below it, of course. Logitech is also breaking support, moving down around this 1,000 SMA. And man, Logitech had such a bad sympathy move here with Corsair. Like, let's see, Logitech's down 5.56%. We have Corsair down 9%. So yeah, it's crazy to see it moving in sympathy with Corsair like that. But they are in pretty similar sectors. I'll give it that.
Yeah, very similar companies. SPCE's not doing too bad today. I mean, some stocks are holding up decent, Tom, but it's like, when you have SPCE up 3.5%, like your initial thoughts are, oh, that's pretty good. But then you look at yesterday's movement and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I know. I feel like that with all of these plays, whether it's SPCE or Square or Neo or Baba or Facebook. I can't believe all the bad movement we've been seeing lately. And I'm glad to see him coming back today, though. This is a pretty big candle. And, like we talked about, even Facebook's coming back up in the green, which is nice. They have some momentum. Some of these other stocks like Plug Power are coming back. Mike, I know Plug yesterday was down like 12 or 14%. It was just insane to see how much this one fell off the table yesterday. They ran from 27 all the way down to 22.69 at the low. Like, man, that sell-off was drastic out of some of these like charging / solar stocks.
Yeah, crazy. Alrighty. What? Oh yeah, I wanted to look back at Twitter for a second. So Twitter's up 2%, Tom, which is a pretty decent amount. We all know Musk has secured financing to take over Twitter, but just because he secured financing, that doesn't mean that he'll actually be able to buy Twitter. So I'm very curious what's going to happen with this one, and I feel like it's very unusual, but also a good thing that Twitter stock has been holding up this well.
Yeah, it's been holding up very well, especially yesterday. Like, whenever we saw the SPY selling off midday, I was really surprised to see Twitter holding up. But, I guess Elon Musk brings in the buyers. He's been very consistent with driving his companies to the upside. He even made his flamethrower company pretty big, Mike. I know that there's no stock for it, but still, I mean, the way that all the pre-orders came in and everything and the money that was made was still ended up being pretty good there. So, he's a powerhouse when it comes to making companies do well. And I really hope this ends up going through with Twitter, Mike. I know that there's been a lot of headlines about it lately. And man, I think it'll be really good for the social media sector in general. I feel like we've been kind of, stuck with the same few lately, like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, stuff like that. I'm waiting for something new to come out, and maybe Musk will help change Twitter a little bit.
Yeah, we will see. All right, so looking at some other stocks that are moving this morning, it looks like Neo's looking okay. Palantir's not looking too bad. Yeah, it's like kind of like, Tom, I'm looking through this entire list of my watch list, and we see companies like Palantir up 2% or Neo up 3%, and like I just said, it's awesome that they're up, but they're still down significantly from yesterday and the day before that, and weeks in the past. So it's nice to see them up today, but I think we need a little bit more than what we're seeing.
Yeah, we need some nice consistent movement for once. Like, we're sitting here looking at a lot of these stocks, and like they've just been going straight down for the past like 6 or 7 months, and in some cases like Zoom, it's been for a couple years, and even like Neo, they've been going up a little bit here and there. Kind of like in the middle of March here, they flew up from $13 up to 24, 25, and it was looking great, but they gave it all right back. And I feel like lately, Mike, these stocks are going on like fake uptrends. Like Neo started to pop up, and then some more bad news came in and they gave it all right back. Same thing with Square, for example. They were another one that was starting to break out a couple weeks ago, and it was looking pretty solid, but as soon as they got up to that like 150 major resistance level, they just came right back down. So we need to see some solid movement and some great breakouts here over the next couple months. And who knows, maybe these earnings will help. But I will say, Mike, whenever we're seeing stocks like Corsair and other stocks break below major supports, it's definitely getting worrisome in the shorter term.
Yeah, no doubt about that. All right. Check out Nvidia right now. It looks like they're getting pretty close to their low of day. I'm seeing them pop up. Yeah, this is not looking too good. Nvidia right at 200.
Yeah, not good at all. It looks like they're going to maybe try to test this or break below it. So definitely keep this one on the radar, guys. If we see a move below 200, who knows how big this sell-off could be. Mike, I remember when AMD fell below $100, they started selling off in a huge way too. And I know that was a big psychological level for them. So if Nvidia starts selling off, it's not going to be good. It'll probably drag AMD even lower there. But man, it's rough with these chip stocks, Mike. Like, again, they were consolidating. It seemed like they were going to be going up for a while, and now they're making new lows. It's insane to see the movement over the past like 6 or 7 months out of the market. And, Mike, like, it's slowly becoming like a pretty bad year. Like, we're already into the end of April, and so far the market has been very choppy this year. And, I remember, Mike, there was a lot of weird not conspiracies, but a lot of like weird statistics where like the market was down on like certain Super Bowl winners and stuff like that. And it looks like it's kind of playing out. I'm not saying that that's the reason the market's down, but I remember at the beginning of the year, a lot of people were saying that this year was set to be red.
Yeah, it's a fair point. fair point. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. No doubt about that. We also have the FOMC event coming up in a couple weeks too, so we'll see, Tom. It's getting crazy, and the SPY's making a new low right now.
Yeah, it is. It's breaking below that 436 support. We're having some bad movement here, and man, it's been so rough lately. Like you said, with the Feds and with everything going on between China and even Russia and Ukraine, and man, there's been so many crazy things. Even like semiconductor issues have been causing other companies to fall too. So there's been so many challenges the past like year, Mike. It's been insane, but one sector that continues to show its strength this week is these airlines, Mike. It looks like American Airlines is popping back up at market open, which is good to see. The other airlines aren't necessarily flying up, but it's good to see American popping back. Delta's doing okay, but they're not flying up by any means.
Yep. And then check out Boeing too. I saw them trying to break out. Never mind.
Yeah, they were trying at market open, but yeah, they hit like 182 and came right back down. But
I thought they were looking decent for a second, but the second you pulled it up, I was like, oh, forget it.
Yeah, that's too bad with them. They were doing pretty well the past couple of weeks, but I will say, Mike, Boeing they are falling today, but they're sitting like right on that 180 support. Maybe that'll end up holding up for them. I know that 180 has been pretty big in the past, and Boeing's gonna have earnings next week, Mike. It looks like they're coming out on April 27th, which is gonna be next Wednesday. So definitely look at stocks next Wednesday, Mike. I know it's not even just Boeing. There's a lot of stocks reporting next Wednesday, like PayPal, Facebook, and Ford even. So it's gonna be big.
Jeez, wow. Yeah, and then how about Thursday? What was that? Amazon, Apple, Twitter, Roku, Intel, Robinhood, Southwest, Caterpillar. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, even Nokia, Mike. We haven't talked about Nokia in a long time.
Let's pull it up.
Oh man, I hope it's around $6 still. It seems like it's been there for a long time. Wow, yeah, it kind of fell back down a little bit the past couple months, Mike, but I can't hit them too hard. I will say they've been holding up quite well compared to a lot of these other stocks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. How's AMC while we're looking at the meme stocks?
They were actually doing okay this morning, believe it or not. Let's check this out on the 5-minute chart here. Yeah, they're kind of popping back up. I will say it's nothing too crazy yet. This stock should move a lot more if it starts to get some real momentum. So for right now, 2% is looking decent. And who knows, maybe if it starts breaking out above the high of day around like 1735 or something, it could maybe play out for a good day trade. But Mike, as we know, AMC has just been continuing to sell off here. It's almost back down to like that big $15 support again. And man, it's not looking good. Even if we go up today a little bit, like the daily chart's just been brutal with this one. Like you can see it had a lot of momentum and now it's just right back down.
Interesting. Check out Teladoc really quickly. This one looks like it might be bouncing off that like $59 to like $58.50 support level. So yeah, check out that price action. Look, it looks decent. It doesn't look to be the best setup in the world, but I figured I'd point it out.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I kind of like it. Formed a good like double bottom yesterday down there around like that 58.50 level you were talking about, and right now it's like trying to pop above $60. Who knows if we continue to see good momentum with this one? I feel like we could see a nice recovery with Teladoc, Mike, and we're seeing a lot of these growth stocks start to bounce off of some lows here, so maybe we'll see a bit of an intraday move to the upside out of like the growth sector in general. I think that would be the main thing that we need to maybe get a nice pop out of some of these stocks is obviously, like if we had a couple, maybe like Square, for example, and Facebook start to fly back up, then I feel like some of these other stocks might start following along. But man, it looks like some of these are starting to turn back over to the downside, which is a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these growth plays, Mike, are just all over the place this morning. It seemed like they wanted to rise, and now they're coming back again.
Yep. We'll see. We will see what else we have moving. Oh, Verizon's tanking down. I don't know if you saw that one. Oh, wow. Oh, Tom, 6% for Verizon's pretty big.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. And look at AT&T kind of following along here. AT&T was doing quite well with their earnings yesterday, and now they're giving those gains right back. Thanks a lot, Verizon. I knew you'd ruin it for AT&T, but
Jeez,
but yeah, Verizon's having a rough day, Mike. This is a pretty bad sell-off here. Especially, I know that people have been talking a lot about 5G getting implemented lately, and it looks like it hasn't been helping.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I'm just like looking at Verizon's chart right now, and I don't even know. It's pretty rough. Like, I feel like what we've seen in the market so far just this week is obviously it's not a good sign, but more so in terms of like earnings. So, for example, in the previous earnings season, basically every stock that reported earnings, for the most part, ended up falling. Like, yes, some stocks popped initially, but for the most part, most of them fell. And this earnings season appears to be the same way, unfortunately. And next week is probably going to be the biggest week. So I hope what we've seen this week is not like the warning sign for next week, but it's not looking too good.
Yeah, I hope it's not either. I will say, though, next week we're going to have a lot of solid companies reporting, like Microsoft, Google, Apple. I was going to say Facebook, but they haven't been too good lately. But they're pretty good overall with their numbers. So I guess I'll mention them too. But, there's a lot of big players reporting here. And, these stocks generally do pretty well with earnings. So I hope that they can report some good numbers here. But I'm not too optimistic, Mike. Like you said, a lot of earnings reports have been going negative lately. And even the ones that go positive, like, for example, Tesla had a great report. But look at it. They gave all the gains right back, and now they're almost back down to that price that they were at before the earnings came out. And, last earnings season, Mike, a few stocks like Enphase also had similar moves like that. Like, they did amazing initially with earnings, and then they gave all those gains right back over the next couple of days as, like, other companies reported and just drove the market down. So I feel like you're right. It's going to be very similar to the last season. And, man, we need some good reports to come out because these companies are at such crucial levels. And as we know by how Netflix has been moving, Mike, it definitely can get worse, if these reports don't go well. So this really worries me seeing Netflix do this, Mike. Like, there's so many other stocks that are setting up in a similar way to this that it's pretty scary to see them drop this low.
Yeah. Oh, I actually want to point something out really quickly with Netflix. So check this out. So let me go to the 220 strike puts for this week. Actually, yeah, we'll do 220 puts for this week. I just want to demonstrate this in terms of like options volatility with earnings releases. So the 220 strike puts for Netflix for this week on the day before their earnings were trading for around $14, okay? When the stock tanked down the next day, when the stock was at its lowest point, these options went from like $14 up to over $1,500, okay? And now those same options are at $170 and are set to be worth $0 by close, assuming Netflix is greater than 220. But it goes to show you, not only will we see a ton of volatility with the stocks themselves, but we will also see a ton of volatility with the options on these stocks. Like I said, this option went from 14 up to over 1,500, and now it's set to expire for $0.
What was the strike
today. Again? What did you say?
What was the strike?
The strike was 220 for today. Right now it's at 180, but with the way the Netflix currently moving, it's set to get destroyed. So.
Yeah, here I'm going to throw those puts in there really quick. Hang on, let's I can't start it with the dot. Oh, hang on, I messed up the tickers now, Mike.
Now you got two dots.
There we go. Yeah, it accidentally pasted over the first one, but yeah, here you can see the puts here on the chart, and early in the week, like you said, Mike, look at the way these puts ran up. Like, wow, it was insane on Wednesday, Mike. But look at this today. I mean, we're all the way back down now, and like you said, it's expected to expire at 0 if we stay above 220. So, looking brutal, Mike. And man, this just goes to show you, like, even the weekly puts that do well end up giving back all their gains eventually.
Yep. So we'll see. And then we have Square saying QQQ bouncing pre-market low 5-minute chart. And then they mentioned Enphase as well. So let's take a look at Enphase really quickly. Enphase is currently down a little bit, but it's not looking too bad today. Like yesterday was a lot worse, but today it seems to be holding up a little bit.
Yes, for now it is. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at this point, though, if we ended up going lower, but I hope it ends up holding down here around these supports. Like 150 looks to be pretty big, and 155 was pretty big yesterday, so I'm curious to see how this one does. Let's check this one out on like the max daily, because Mike, I remember Enphase was holding up quite well, and it's doing a lot better than a lot of stocks are. Like we're seeing stocks like Corsair, for example, break below supports here, but stocks like Enphase are still up above their lows, which is cool to see, but they are coming down in a big way. It looks like 150 is going to be a pretty big support for them as that level approaches. So definitely keep 150 on the radar. I think that's going to be a pretty key level to look at. And Mike, with Enphase, we have earnings next week again. So it looks like they're going to have earnings on Tuesday. So this will probably be a pretty crazy stock to watch. I know last earnings report, it did very, very well, but just keep in mind that even by the next morning, it gave a lot of those gains back. So you have to keep that always in the back of your mind here.
Alrighty. And then we have Sean saying, if SPY falls below 433, we going for a bear market, in my opinion. So he said 433. Yeah, I mean, a lot of stocks are already in giant bear phases. Like, I know the S&P 500 has been holding up a lot better than other stocks, but I know what you mean. I mean, the SPY was lower just like a month ago, so... But yeah, I mean, I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah, I feel like it'll definitely cause at least a sell-off maybe over like the next couple days. And, like looking at the SPY, Mike, I have so many drawings intraday. It's hard to look at it on the daily chart. But yeah, like let's see so like looking at it on the daily, Mike, like there's a pretty big support it's been sitting at here around 435. And now that we're starting to move below that, I mean, I could see the SPY selling off too. There is a pretty major support coming up though around... Wow, Mike, it's right around Elon Musk's favorite number down here, right around 420. So it seems like that's going to be a pretty big support if we do start heading down. So keep that in mind. That's about 14 points away. I wouldn't be surprised if we got there, Mike. Lots of stocks are starting to move down. And if these earnings keep going negative like we're seeing, I mean, obviously the market will start selling off. And we have the prospect of rates going up, Mike. And man, I know we saw that chart last night again. I think I still have it up. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, you can see the market is pricing in a 97.6% chance of the Feds raising rates by 75 to 100 basis points, which is pretty big here. That'll be a 1% increase on their overall inflation numbers if they go with the 100 basis point increase there. They'll probably do like the 75 basis point increase, but still, I mean, it's pretty crazy that they're talking about raising rates this drastically.
So check this out, Tom. You see how the two columns, we have the 50 to 75 basis point, and then we have the 75 to 100 basis point. So refresh the page really quickly. I just want to see something. So let's see.
If it'll load, it looks
right. The one time I ask you to do this, it takes very long to
I'm
refresh.
Curious, like, is it just that? It's just that website, because CNBC apparently reloaded really quick. But let's see. Yeah, here we go.
There we go.
Maybe a lot of people are looking at it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Perfect. So we can see there's the pricing of the 50 to 75 basis point rate hike has been completely ruled out, and now we are seeing either a 75 basis point to 100 basis point rate hike or a 100 to 125 basis point rate hike. So this goes to show you that the market is definitely expecting rates to be hiked a lot more than everyone was originally expecting, a week ago, a month ago, and all that stuff. So much so that no one is expecting at all a 50 basis point rate hike. So it's interesting, like now is like the market is pricing in a tiny chance of even a 100 basis point to 125 basis point rate hike. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's insane. And it seems like Powell just keeps getting more hawkish every time he speaks. I know that even yesterday he said that it's absolutely essential to do what they're doing to restore price stability. So, it makes sense. The Fed, like, if we're being honest, Mike, they kept their easy policy a little bit too long. They should have started raising rates a little bit sooner, but they obviously waited a little bit too long. Now inflation's going absolutely crazy, and it just seems like he's just getting more hawkish every time he speaks, Mike. So I hope that the market can hold up here over the next couple months. But kind of like what I said at the beginning of the stream, a lot of people expected this to happen this year, and it is happening. So I guess the market's going to take a bit of a hit, and people have been expecting it. So I feel like some like Mike, like a lot of bigger hedge funds and institutions and stuff like that, kind of like what we've been seeing with the price of gold going up. I feel like these companies are starting to maybe hedge themselves and prepare for this, economic pullback that's been happening, because we've been seeing these commodities and stuff start to fly up in some pretty good ways.
Powell secured that second term, and then he's finally speaking the truth, about just inflation and all that stuff. I don't even want to say speaking the truth. I just want to say, like, his actions are kind of backing it up. For example, like, before he secured his second term, he was much more dovish and saying, inflation will be just fine. We're fine continuing to pump the markets, blah, 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 blah. He gets that second term, and now he's like, all right, we gotta really get control of inflation. But we all know Powell's a very smart man, and when you pump so much money for like 2 years straight, it's like you're bound to see horrible inflation. So I guess
they definitely are, and that's a really cool comparison there, Mike, because Powell, he's been so drastic lately with everything he said. And remember, for like 6 months there, Mike, it was all transitory. Remember, it was transitory, and the Feds were going to implement their tools to keep inflation down, but they never did, and they let it get out of control. Like you said, as soon as he got that second term, he started becoming more hawkish. And it's very interesting because I know, Mike, like, that's just a total hypothetical there, but I kind of believe that's honestly true, like what happened. Like you look at it and you look at the timing of everything, and you're right. It was like the second he got in, he started finally, becoming hawkish, and it was just like out of nowhere. He went from transitory to we need to raise rates right now. It's he kind of flip-flopped pretty drastically, and I'm not blaming him. He obviously needs to look out for himself, and he did a pretty good job there holding up the markets for a couple years. And I will say, Mike, the way that growth stocks have been falling off, if Powell didn't do what he did for a couple years, I wonder how quicker, this sell-off would have happened.
Yes, I wonder how quicker the sell-off would have happened, but I also would have wondered if the growth stocks would have even got to the levels that they got to. For example, let's say we look at Roblox as a random example. Like, sure, Roblox went to highs of $141.60. Like, what I wonder is if Powell, would have acted quicker with the rate hikes and the tapering and all that stuff. Would Roblox have gotten to like 90 or 80 or something like that? We'll never know the answer to that. But there's a lot of like, if this, then what if this would have happened? You know what I mean? So it's I don't know, Tom. It's definitely just a crazy situation.
Yeah, it is, and it's kind of fun to talk about all the different ways things can play out, because there's so much different scenarios going on right now, and even Russia and Ukraine is playing a bit of a part. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That's pretty telling there. Like, if we weren't pumping the markets and stuff, a lot of those growth stocks might not have gotten quite as overextended. That's a really good point there. So, even like when we look at these stocks like Zoom, that we're at like $500, then they ended up coming down to $100 now, and different things like this. Like, you're right. I mean, it would have been who knows what could have happened if their policy had changed for the better. But as we know, they took too long, and man, these poor stocks are now selling off in such drastic ways that it's brutal, Mike. I wish Powell would have obviously would have been a little bit more truthful as far as like the transitory statements and stuff go. That's the main negative I've seen with Powell over the past couple of years, is just those transitory statements really stick in the back of my mind. But overall he did okay. I will say the SPY held up well. And realistically, like on the daily chart, the overall market's not doing too bad right now, even though the growth stocks are obviously exponentially lower. Like we're still seeing like Apple and Microsoft hold up fairly well right now, although it looks like they're starting to turn over as we speak. So honestly, Mike, it kind of seems like Apple and Microsoft might go on another downtrend here. Like Apple's turning over, and if the market keeps falling down like this, I would not be surprised if Apple fell off a little bit, especially if those earnings don't go as well as expected.
All right. And then Jerry said, or he's just asking about Zoom. Jerry's looking at buying some calls. So let's take a look. I am someone who loves Zoom, so I have a very biased opinion. I think it looks pretty decent right now for the short term, and I think it looks pretty awesome for like long-term leaps. Again, I'm biased towards Zoom, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and in the short term, I mean, you're at one of the best levels you can be at. You're at the key $100 support. Like if I was ever going to pick a support that I would think Zoom would bounce off of, you would think $100 would be one of the main levels here. Now, obviously, Zoom could fall right through 100 and it could just not hold up. But, who knows? So far today, some buyers are coming in. They're buying it up off of $100, and it doesn't look too bad. So I feel like this one could be pretty good for calls today, Mike. And for the next couple of weeks, anything can happen, especially with the way earnings can go all over the place. But for today, it's not looking too bad, and I wouldn't expect them to fall below 100 unless we saw maybe a bit more of sell-off, maybe like with the overall growth sector or with maybe like with the S&P 500 or something. Then I could maybe see Zoom going down a little bit more. But so far today, it's holding up very well, Mike. It's actually looking pretty decent here. Like maybe if we break that high of day, right around that resistance yesterday at like 103.25, who knows? Maybe Zoom will start to pop up towards like 105 or something like that.
All right, there we go. Jerry said, thoughts on Kathy loading up on more Zoom. So,
oh no.
Uh-oh. But like I said, I like Zoom. Kathy has been, she buys a lot of good companies. It's just, as Hunter likes to say, it's just the prices she tends to pay tend to be a little bit aggressive. But overall, I think it zooms at a really good level, and I think it will do very well in the future. But like I said, I am biased, so take what I say with a grain of salt related to Zoom, because it's one of my favorite stocks for the long term at this level.
Yeah, I really like it at this level. I will say, Mike, back whenever it was higher, I will say I was hitting on Zoom a little bit because of everything happening with COVID and stuff like that. But now that we're down at the valuation down here around $100, I mean, it is a great price point. Like if you look at the yearly chart on Zoom, even the past year, I mean, we fell from 400 down to 94. That's not even counting the move a couple years ago back up to 500. So, man, I mean, it's been crazy. I really hope they do well. And like we've been saying, Mike, their fundamentals look really solid. Like here, let's go look at them again, actually, on the dashboard. So you can go look at Zoom here, and I'm going down to the obviously to the yearly numbers here. You can see yearly they've been growing their revenue a ton, which is huge. Look at their net income, Mike. Even their net income is flying up a lot. You usually don't see this type of move here. And then even if we go here and we look at their monthly revenue or their quarterly revenue increases, they're still increasing quarterly whenever they were expected to drop. So it looks pretty good to me, especially at $100 right now. And Mike, that price of sales is pretty low for a growth stock.
Exactly. So check this. You said it very well, Tom. We'll start off with the revenue. It's increasing in an awesome way. On top of that, even quarterly, the revenue continues to increase when, look what happened with the world. So, that's really good with everything reopening and all that stuff. Two, with the price to sales ratio, it's at 7.3, which is not necessarily a low number, but for a growth stock, it is a low number, just like Tom said. And here's the thing. When you have a price to sales ratio of 7.3 and gross margins of 74%, that's pretty dang good, in my opinion. On top of that, they are profitable, which is rare for growth companies in their early stages. Even their net margins are 33%. They're cash flow positive. They've been cash flow positive. Their shares outstanding have been increasing, which is not necessarily a good thing, but I believe they had something with a share buyback announced a couple months ago. But either way, it's like when you look at the numbers, they're at a really good level in my opinion. Their revenue is growing at an insane pace. With that being said, we do not expect, or at least I don't expect the revenue to continue to increase like this, because when the world shut down and everyone's locked in their houses, like that's like the perfect opportunity for a company like Zoom. With that being said, I can see Zoom slowly continuing to increase their revenue over time, nowhere near the growth we've seen over the past 2 years, because that was just a black swan event. But either way, it goes to show you that despite the world reopening, every single quarter they continue to produce record revenue. They have really good margins, and their price to sales ratio isn't too bad.
Yeah, it's not. It's just these numbers are really sound for a growth stock. Like if we look at other growth stocks, like one of our other favorite ones, Mike, we always bring this up, DraftKings. Like you can even just see, like, look at their net income compared to Zoom's. Like look at their net income is in the negative more than they're even making on revenue. And you look at their quarterly revenue, and of course it went up really big in Q4. Mike, I know we talked about a lot that DraftKings does very well usually in the fourth quarter because of the Super Bowl and everything like that. So of course they had a jump here. You can see their revenue was like falling off for a couple quarters there as kind of as the revenue, or I should say like as the seasons were kind of changing. Like we were getting back more into the Super Bowl season and stuff heading into Q4. So that's why you saw that big pop back up. There was also like the national championship and stuff like that, but still it's pretty big, Mike. Like even look at their net income ratio. It's just down there in the negative, and you look at Zoom and they're doing so well. And then you even look at like other growth companies, like let's just pick another random one like Corsair, for example. You can see even like their revenue is all over the place and dips back down a little bit, just like DraftKings does. Like Zoom has really sound fundamentals, Mike, compared to most of these other companies. And Corsair is pretty good, but it's definitely no Zoom here.
Yep. Alrighty. And let's see. Alex said, with the choppy market, are there any safe haven stocks anywhere to park capital until the market settles a bit? You can look at value stocks like Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, maybe Walmart, stuff like that. But I think the best way to go would be with like GLD and SLV. The main reason I say this is because when you look at some of these value stocks like Walmart on the daily chart, it's like, yes, while they are a safe haven company, it's like they just went from 132 up to like 161 in like a month and a half. And if you look at like Procter & Gamble or like Kraft Heinz or anything like that, they're just up a ton in the short term, which isn't a bad thing. It's just like if you're looking for like complete safety, in my opinion, like gold and silver would be more safe rather than these value stocks after they popped up.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And, I'm holding like Kraft Heinz and a couple of these stocks, and I love them. I love them for the longer term, but, I would never buy Kraft Heinz up here at $44. I'm a buyer down here at like 34, 33, areas like that. Definitely not up here at like 44. They're just too overextended in the shorter term, like Mike said. Even a big powerhouse like Walmart is so overextended. Like you said, Mike, that rise from 132 to 160 was a pretty big move. That was a 21% increase out of Walmart there. And of course, Walmart might keep going up in the shorter term. They'll probably, go up slow and steadily like usual, but it's not going to make for any crazy movement or anything like that at this point. Most of these big breakout plays or the big moves here already happened as they started breaking out. So yeah, I'm with you, Mike. I think gold and silver would be a lot better to get to. And, GLD is actually consolidating a lot down here right around this 180 support. So it might be a pretty good buying opportunity soon.
All right, there we go. We have Baba booming, Tom. Let's take a look.
Wow, up 5%. Let's see that intraday movement here. Wow, all the way up back to $90, Mike. And I knew these things were looking pretty hot at open. Even though they were all over the place in pre-market, they ended up coming back quite well.
Yep. All right. We also have Twitter continuing to power up. Seeing Twitter up 5%, just like, it almost like makes me wonder, like over like the past week or so, if Elon's been accumulating more shares, but enough where he doesn't trigger the poison pill, and if like Elon has like allies that are also buying up, 14 point whatever percent, just to get the deal done. I don't know. Like, it's just like when you see the stock moving like this, it's because people are buying it. You know what I mean? And like, I know a lot of people were expecting Twitter to fall on, Monday morning because the Twitter poison pill was announced over the weekend, but it's just been holding up very well, and that's because there's a lot of buying pressure. So
yeah, there is. It seems like the hype is just coming in, kind of like what we saw with Tesla for a couple of years. Like Tesla would just blow our minds and just continue to break out with like good news events and stuff like that. And it looks like Twitter is having similar hype going on right now. And, if Elon Musk buys this, I expect Twitter to get some pretty nice pops. And man, it's going to be crazy. I think people are going to look back at this and be like, wow, I wish I could have gotten Twitter at, $45 or something. And, if the deal doesn't go through, who knows how low Twitter will end up going? Because Mike, like, as we know, a lot of people are buying right now in anticipation of Musk. And if this doesn't happen, it's going to tank. So it's a pretty risky situation, Mike, but it seems pretty, he seems like a pretty fun situation though, too. Like it's a very rare circumstance to have a CEO of another large company like Tesla try to buy another company like Twitter, especially someone like Elon who's buying it for the betterment of like the country. So man, I really hope he gets it. Like I said earlier, I hope that Twitter starts changing for the better. Even if Elon doesn't get it, maybe he'll open up the board's eyes and maybe show them like, hey, this is what people want, and you guys could do a lot better if you gave the people what they wanted, So who knows? But there's so many different hypotheticals with this situation, and I hope he ends up buying it, and hopefully Twitter starts breaking out above $50, Mike, because as we can see on that max daily chart, Twitter has a long way to go back to the upside here, and it looks like at least the way it's setting up, Mike, it's setting up very well. I kind of said this in last night's video. It looks like it's trying to like staircase back to the upside. And I've seen a lot of bullish setups, Mike, that have very similar moves to this, like where they have that nice initial gap up, then they break down, consolidate, and now it looks like it's trying to go on that second leg back. So we'll have to see what happens with the price action here, but I'm loving what I'm seeing right now.
Yep, we will see. Good stuff there. Looking through a couple different screeners right now. Twitter's really leading the way. Baba's doing decent. Let's see. I saw a couple. I was gonna say AMC, but it's not doing too bad. It's all right.
Yeah, it's holding up okay. I will say something that's been on the top of my watch list all morning, Mike, is DWAC. Believe it or not, this company is gapping up this morning a little bit. It's kind of running up with the growth plays, and man, with Twitter having all the news lately, I figured DWAC would start dying off. And as we can see, they definitely have been. They've been on a pretty bad downtrend. And I wonder how low this one's going to go, Mike. Like, look at that IV, even starting to get crazy. It's all the way up to 183% again. It's almost like the IV is getting higher to the points like that it was when the stock was flying up to 175. So, this poor stock, Mike, is probably going to get demolished because, as we know, if Elon changes Twitter, that's pretty much going to ruin all the plans for Truth Social. And to be honest, I think Truth Social kind of dropped the ball. That was like one of the worst launches I've ever seen in the history of launches. So even Trump was hitting the launch and saying that it was terrible. So I don't know. It was definitely a letdown with Truth Social. But hey, I'm glad Elon Musk saw that happening. And I think that he saw Truth Social's demise and he's like, hey, I need to do something because obviously we need a good platform where people can express themselves, because the past couple of years, Mike, it's been brutal. Like you can get banned on Facebook for just like joking around with your friends. Even it's kind of crazy.
Wow. Yeah, DWAC is struggling. I see that the IV's also popping up quite a bit with DWAC. I wonder what this is like for. Like, I'm not seeing any earnings dates on the Thinkorswim calendar, but normally, like, when we see IV increases like what we're seeing now, there's some sort of event.
I did see something here, Mike. Actually, this morning, it looks like Truth Social is going to be migrating to Rumble Cloud. So I don't know exactly what this is going to happen here. It looks like the Rumble CEO is excited to partner with Truth Social over this. But, yeah, it looks like they're going to be partnering with Rumble in some type of way. So we'll have to see what happens there. But, yeah, I don't think that this is going to go too well for Truth Social, Mike. It's been a rough go for them. And, I was really hoping that they would maybe be like the next big social media platform, but, they really botched that launch. And, even someone like me who was really hyped up about their company, whenever you botch a launch that bad, I mean, the stock's going to fall, and, it's deserving. They definitely, they botched it so bad, Mike. Like, I think I'm still on the wait list, and there's like 500,000 people or something on the list. So it's kind of insane. And I do know that they were very political too. So that's another reason why it probably didn't pan out the best.
Yep. All right. Sean said he's been in Facebook jail many times.
That's hilarious.
All right. What else? Wait, speaking of Facebook, let's check in on it really quickly. I'm just curious. It's not
doing
bad.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, it's been falling off a little bit the past few minutes, but I will say, I should say from market open, it fell down a little bit. The past few minutes, like the past 15 minutes overall, the stock's been kind of popping back up a little bit. So who knows? Maybe it'll hold. Facebook's still above that big 180 support. So as long as we hold above that, I think we'll be okay. Like I said earlier, though, Mike, I'm a little bit worried with Facebook. They report earnings next week. They fell a lot on their last report. And with the way Netflix moved, I'm scared Facebook might start breaking below this support. And even if their earnings don't go necessarily terrible, like even if their earnings are okay, they still might break below the support. Like so many stocks are at major supports right now, whether it's Facebook or Square or Palantir or you name it, they're all like at crucial levels. And if they start breaking these supports, it's just going to cause more of a sell-off in my opinion. But yeah, so far today, Facebook's doing okay. And man, hopefully it holds up for next week, because I really hope their earnings go better than last time, because man, Apple and Google just hit them really hard last time with that ad revenue stuff. So hopefully their ad revenue gets better.
All right. I mean, we covered most of the most important stocks, Tom. I mean, I keep looking through my scanners and watch lists, and, we have a couple plays moving that we already covered, but besides that, it's just a lot of consolidation, Like, even look at Facebook. Like, they were looking good for a second, and then they pulled back down, and now they're just flat. So I feel like this type of setup is kind of common today in the market. At the same time, we have the SPY that looks to be breaking its low of day, but yeah, it just seems like a choppy day.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, the SPY is continuing to move lower too. I'm sure that's also dragging more stocks down. And wow, that SPY was looking bad a few minutes ago, and it started consolidating. But we came up, we kind of retested 436, Mike. This setup is not good in my opinion. I've seen this type of bearish setup a lot of other times. Like, we just fell below that major 436 support. Now we came up, we retested it, got rejected. Now we're making new lows here. Man, I could see the SPY potentially getting down to 432 with the way it's moving. I mean, this is not good movement, and it's just going to drag more stocks lower and lower. And like you mentioned, Mike, lots of stocks are continuing to fall down intraday. Even these big credit card companies like Visa are also turning over. It's been brutal for like some of these banks and credit card companies lately. And if the market keeps falling, these will probably keep following along with the SPY.
Yep. Alrighty. Well, Tom, do you have any last minute thoughts before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a brutal past couple days. I hope that the growth sector starts turning it back around. There's a lot of big earnings next week. Let's check out some of these earnings maybe for Monday really quick, just so we don't get caught off guard Monday. So Monday, we're going to be having Coca-Cola, Activision, Philips, and a couple more, but the main two are going to be Coca-Cola and Activision. Mike, I know Activision is getting bought out by, who is it, Microsoft?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, they're getting bought out by Microsoft, and you can see their stock has been super flat. And Mike, I remember you projected it being flat because Microsoft's buying them out for, I can't remember the exact price, somewhere around $80 a share. So that's why their stock price is sitting stagnant right here. And I'm curious to see how they move with earnings, because they didn't do anything with the last report since Microsoft bought them, or is buying them. So I don't think that they'll move too much, but definitely keep it on the radar just in case. And as we can tell, Coca-Cola has been on a tear, Mike, to the upside. And if their earnings come in worse than expected, Coke will probably start having a bit of a pullback here. And it's going to be a tough one with Coca-Cola, Mike, because, they're going to be reporting before market opens. And they're so overextended. Like I have a feeling Coke might start pulling back here. Although, they've been a powerhouse, so they could keep running, but man, they're just so overextended in the shorter term. I can't believe it.
Alrighty, well, thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. Before we close out, we want to personally thank everyone. So thank you, Alex, Caleb, Mason, Sean, Hunter, Renzo, Mike, Vicky, Square, Raymond, Tony, Sean D, Jerry, and I think that's everyone. Yeah, I think that's everyone. So thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. Hopefully the market pops back up because it's been brutal over the past couple days. Besides that, have a great rest of your day.